Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing and digital agency.
On being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship, we bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview some of the top business leaders in the community.
And I'm very excited because today we have with us, I'm very honored that we have our guest, Irma Edington. She is the Executive Director and CEO of Hope for Youth. Now, Hope for Youth, for more than 50 years, has provided services for children and families, including outpatient, clinical, and preventive services, foster care, and diagnostic and emergency residential services. This organization works with children as young as birth through 21 all across Long Island, with locations in Amityville, Bellmore, Farmingdale, Shore and Seaford. So Hope for Youth has grown into one of Long Island's preeminent providers of services for children and families. And when I started at Jovia Federal Credit Union 15 years ago when we were in FQ, Hope for Youth was one of the first nonprofit organizations where I got to experience like that whole nonprofit gala. What a wonderful event it was. So, Irma, so happy to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
We're very excited and can't wait to share all the good work that you do. So why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you began your professional journey and found yourself working with Hope for Youth.
Pretty boring story, but I came to the United States from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican. I was born there, was there until I was 3. My mom brought me over here with my younger sister, lived in Queens. I'm a Queens girl. Richmond Hill, Queens, yay. In the house, right? Grew up there, went to school there, and she was a single parent, raised myself and my sister. I always found myself being one of those young people that was a little bit more an old soul, more the child that the parents would say, well, if Irma's going, you can go. I'm the one that
responsible.
I was the responsible one. Yes, okay. I like to have fun, but
that tracks.
Safe fun. Went into school. I started my educational career at St. John's University in Queens.
Yeah.
Yes.
My alma mater.
Oh, look at that. Went there. Thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to be a pediatrician. Went into pre-med. And when I walked into organic chemistry, ooh. I looked at myself. I looked at the people around me. I said, this isn't for me. Mm. It was like another language, like Chinese.
Okay.
Walked out, went to my counselor and said, I want to work with children. Want to work with people. She says, you know what? I think human services would be a good place for you. Okay. Changed my major, started human services courses, and then found my passion, social work. And then went to Hunter College, and got my master's in social work. And from there, my professional career started at St. Christopher Ottilie, another non-for-profit agency that has its origins in Brooklyn and Queens. Mm-hmm. I worked there for 13 years and then moved over to my amazing agency now, Hope for Youth, and I've been there for 24 years.
Well, I'll tell you, if Ray remembers 15 plus years later, your gala, and it really put him on the track for nonprofits and visiting nonprofits and attending events around Long Island, you really must have had an impact on him and made an impression.
Yeah, the organization and the mission definitely resonated with me, and it showed me the good work that's being done on Long Island. Kudos to you for working with such an amazing organization. And I also have to say, so I'm sitting here with 2 beautiful, powerful women. I'm guessing that, so Irma, you mentioned you're an old soul. Your mom is a single mom, raising you. So I'm sure she was a wonderful role model to look up to. Can you tell me a little bit about your role models, like who you look up to and how they might have influenced your decisions to work with Hope for Youth?
Well, I think the role models were the females in my family. Obviously, my mother being one of them. Believe it or not, I lived in an apartment building, so it was a community. So all the mothers were of different places. Haitian, African American, Colombian, Panamanian, all these wonderful cultures coming together, actually some Jewish families as well, and just taking in everything that they had to offer. And growing up with these children, I think, helped me see that there's so much good out there.
Yes.
And then at the same time, there's a lot of sorrow and a lot of hurt. And how do you go and help? You know, what can you do to make a difference, right? And these women taught me that. And then, of course, when I started my professional career, you know, having the mentors at the original agency that I was at, having that first supervisor really support me and help me, guide me in social work. What does it mean to be a social worker? There's a lot of social workers out there, but what does it truly mean to be a social worker and give of yourself unconditionally? You know, to help these vulnerable families of our communities, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and it's one thing to say, I want to give back and stay in a profession for 5 years, but there's another to make a career. When did you decide, like, this is my trajectory in life and this is truly my passion? Like, when was your aha moment? My aha moment.
Like I said, I started at another agency prior to Hope for Youth, and I think it gave me the foundation. And I remember one child. You always remember that one child. I remember one child that came in through our emergency services. And these children come in with nothing. And he came in, and he was a challenge. He was a challenging little guy, but you know, you expect it. These children go through an awful lot, and it's hard for them to now be an instructor and have, you know, someone take care of you. It's foreign to them, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I remember that the family, unfortunately, it wasn't a good match. The child couldn't stay there, and we had no other placements for him. And this was a city child. At that time, the agency I was with worked with the city. And I had to, as a social worker, return this child to kind of like a group home setting. Okay. And I remember this little boy wrapped himself around my legs, begging me not to leave him. It was the hardest thing I had to do. And I had to, right? I had to leave him. I think that day it struck me saying, I need to continue to do this to make a difference. Right. You know? And it just, I don't know, it just stayed with me.
Yeah, that's what a motivation, and so sad, but at the same time, you have to do what's best for the child, and you know, even though it's hard, and also what's best for you. Now, bringing that experience into Hope for Youth enables you to provide services for kids across Long Island. I know I rattled off the services, but I'd like you to kind of go into a little more detail about what it is that Hope for Youth actually provides these children, these families.
Of course. Well, Hope for Youth has been around for 55 years now. We are celebrating our 55th anniversary this year, and we're going to be having another gala on October 23rd. I'll be sure to send out invitations. Okay. Hope for Youth is an agency, an organization, non-for-profit, as you've heard, that services all of Long Island, from the border of Queens to Shelter Island and Montauk. We run the gamut of the whole Long Island community. We have a continuum of services. We have primary prevention. We have a primary prevention team that goes into schools. They push into schools, talk about bullying, not to do drugs. They attend, actually right now, they're attending summer camps across the island, doing activities with the kids, teaching them about being good friends. Again, no bullying, no taking drugs, to all the way to our residential program. So we run the primary prevention. We have an outpatient alcohol and substance abuse clinic for adolescents. We have a psychiatrist and a psychologist, a nurse practitioner, a registered nurse on staff that take care of all our kids that come into our residential programs and foster care. And then we have our psychologists and psychiatrists that meet with our youngsters that are in our programs and those from the community for any type of mental health or behavioral issues. And we do very extensive psychiatric evaluations and psychological assessments. We have primary preventive programs, and these preventive programs push into the home. So I have an intensive case management program. I have a juvenile justice program. I have an intensive child protective services program. So these are programs that work with families that are in danger of being separated from their youth, from their children. They may have done something that brought light to the child protective services, but the goal here is to maintain children with their families. That's the goal. When and if possible, and if it's safe. If it's safe, then we push in social workers. They evaluate the situation. They push in services. They make referrals. They see what the family needs. And we go into the home in some programs once a week, in some programs twice a week, in some programs 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
These parents get parenting, drug, substance abuse, clinical services that we push into the house. And these children range in age from birth up to 18, 19, 20 years old. Our juvenile justice program are kids that get themselves into trouble. They're jumping out of windows, they're dabbling in drugs or marijuana or whatever they may be dabbling in, doing little low-level shoplifting. We don't want them to progress. Right? We want to stop them. We don't want them to get to court. So we have programs that help these youngsters kind of see the light of day or see that what they're doing is not the right thing. And our social workers push in and provide the services and the referrals in order to help them, take another road if possible. We have foster care, of course. We have children that are placed in foster homes. Our foster homes are scattered throughout Suffolk and Nassau. Our children range in age from newborn to 21 when they age out of the system. And these children are placed from Nassau and Suffolk Departments of Social Services and also Nassau and Suffolk Departments of Probation. So these are youngsters that unfortunately may have been abused or neglected, abandoned, and they need somewhere to be while their family works on their challenges. And we help the families work on those challenges as well. And then we have a runaway and homeless youth shelter in Babylon. These are for youngsters that find that they, don't want to or can't because of safety reasons stay in their homes and they're on the street. So we have an outreach worker that goes out, kind of, tries to find those spots where these youngsters may be, gathering, offering them. We also give the cards to several school districts in all of Long Island to let them know that this is available for these youngsters, somewhere safe, somewhere where they can have a bed, food, shelter, and then the social worker there works with the community, with that family, with whoever it is that's involved to help that youngster move out of the shelter and possibly back with their family or somewhere safe. We have a lot. We have a transitional living program, which is our newest program in Farmingdale. These are for families that are on the list of the Coalition for the Homeless. These families are just have had a challenge. And as we all know, rents are very high these days. And people, there's a fine line between, where we are and where they are.
Yes.
One day can change that for all of us. And I think we need to remember that. It's not them against us. It's all of us together. And these families, we are able to place the families and they can come in with their young children. So we have capacity for 5 in that program. And it's full right now. And then once they can find an apartment, we help pay for half their rent. They have to be able to pay for half theirs, and we help them transition into a more permanent situation. And I believe we can assist them for 3 years. This is a federal grant, so we also have federal funds that come in. And then we have a diagnostic and emergency group home, where children are placed from Suffolk and Nassau Department of Social Services and Probation. These are youngsters that are having a difficult time, have been bouncing from home to home, and they're not sure what this child needs. So they place them in this emergency setting. We do what we call a full diagnostic, a psychiatric, a psychological, a psychosocial, full medical, and then we give the recommendations to the referral source and let them know what we think in our best professional opinion where this child where their needs would be best met. We have a non-secure detention center. That's a Department of Probation program for Suffolk, and these children are the ones that get themselves into trouble and are basically held here until the next court date, until the judge can decide what the next step is. And then we have a Suffolk Act program. Program is based out of our Bayshore office, and this program works with the most challenged of psychiatric children that are in and out of psychiatric hospitals, and we work on helping to get them stabilized so they can stay with their families. We have health homes, which is a care coordination program, works with all the programs, and we have a focus program that works with families, parents that are currently using very heavy-duty drugs, heroin, the heroin epidemic. This program is focused on helping these families kind of in their recovery, so then they can be reunited. And the children are 0 to 5. So we do child-parent psychotherapy with these families and these youth. And the children are usually not with those parents; they're with a caregiver, whether it's a grandparent, a foster parent, and then we work on reuniting them.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I'm blown away. You really take care of the whole child, the whole family.
Yes.
And it's just so much that entails in everything you do. And thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Irma Edington, Executive Director and CEO of Hope for Youth. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz, on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Now, as DB mentioned, you cover so much, and I can only imagine the impact that you're having on so many families. Can you share with us, choose maybe one family that Hope for Youth really made an impact, and tell us their story?
Wow. Yes, of course. We have actually one of our families that's being honored at the gala. She is our foster family of the year. So she will be there, and we're obviously we want to celebrate her. She has been with Hope for Youth, probably for over 20 years. She's been a constant. She is one of those foster families that you call her in the middle of the night, first thing in the morning, and she says, sure, I'm here for you. You let me know what you need, as long as she has the space in her home, of course. Her boys are about 17 years old. About 17 years ago, we called her. We had a pair of baby twins, newborn, 2 baby boys. Now, keep in mind, she was a younger woman. She also had her own biological children. She had her own son and daughter that she was raising. And she said, absolutely. This was a pair of twins that was part of a sibling group of probably 8 or 9. So they were split in different homes, probably across different agencies at the time. She took the 2 boys and she helped raise them, and they had some challenges. They unfortunately, there was some substance abuse in the family, and the children, even though they were newborn, they had some struggles in sleeping and eating. But she really stuck through. She helped raise these 2 boys, and unfortunately, the family could not be reunited. We worked hard towards it, and it doesn't always happen. But these 2 boys were adopted by this foster family, and they are her sons, and they are amazing, amazing children.
Oh, that's beautiful. What are some of the misconceptions that folks have about the work that you do? Because oftentimes, people talk about social work and people have one idea about it, and it is something completely different. What are those misconceptions you run into?
Well, I think that in thinking back or thinking of our career or of our profession, let's say your profession, we are not on TV like the famous baseball players and famous football players, right? We're not making millions of dollars. We're barely scraping by. But if you think about it, I think we're doing some of the most valuable work on Long Island and in all communities where there's social workers. We work with the most vulnerable families that need someone to help support them and advocate for them so they can have a better chance in life. And I think the misconceptions are, they don't want to work, or, they just want to use the system, or, social work, what do you really do? What do you talk to these people? What are you really doing for these families? And I think these families are not that. They are you and I. Mm-hmm. They are everyday people that are struggling, trying to get by and give their children a good life. Yes, some of them have challenges. Some of them have made mistakes. Absolutely. But haven't we all?
Right.
And I think that we need to stop separating from they and us. It's all of us. And together we can make a difference.
Yep. Together is really the
Yes.
key word there, and it's so important. So what are the biggest risks that you face in doing the work that you do, and how do you continue doing that work and protect Hope for Youth and protect the families? There's a lot of risks. How do you mitigate that?
It's a good question, Ray. We train our staff. Obviously, we have training on safety. We have the buddy system. People, in certain situations go out with, there's more than one social worker or caseworker that goes out. They go out in teams. If we feel that it's a dangerous situation, we always look for safety for our staff and for our families. How do we mitigate it? In the middle of COVID, let's just use that situation. Middle of COVID.
Little pandemic.
It's that little pandemic, right? We never shut down. We were going out and knocking on those doors. We could not stop working. We have to put our eyes on the children. We have to make sure that they were safe. We had to make sure that the families had the things that they needed, and they knew the resources that were available to them. And there was a safety issue there, wasn't there? There were hundreds of people every day on the news that they were not doing well. Many people were dying from this horrific virus. But my staff were out there. They were knocking on those doors. They were looking at the children. They were making referrals. They were making those phone calls to make sure that they were still connected. So we do what we have to do. Obviously, keeping in mind that we need to be safe, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anybody else. But we do what we have to do to get the job done.
Yeah, and that's so correct. The oxygen mask, you need to put it on yourself first. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing. Yes, that work doesn't stop, even when these things are going on for all of us. Have you seen any trends in recent years? Because you've been with Hope for Youth now for 25 years, correct? Or
yes, 24, almost 25,
24,
yes.
Okay. All right, I'm rounding up. But that said, have you seen trends, or is this just a constant need?
We do see trends. We see situations where there's more substance abuse. Right now, substance abuse is high. And what I see more, mental health issues.
Right.
We have a lot of behavioral issues, a lot of behavioral challenges. We have children that face a lot of challenges in their life, which obviously impacts on how they behave and how they see the world. But right now, mental health is really something that's very concerning, because there are not a lot of mental health services out there, and the ones that there are a wait list, right? So that's why we have our own mental health clinic for our children, and we're going to be opening it up to the community. But we need more services, and we need people and just folks in general to understand that mental health is not this scary under the bed animal. It's something that we need to deal with and face and treat. Mm-hmm. These, they're suffering. They're suffering as if they had the flu, or if they had a virus, or they were sick. It's the same thing. They want to feel better. They want to do better. Mental health services is definitely something that's impacting our population, our families, our children. So I see that as one of the biggest things right now.
Now, one of the things that really impressed me years ago when I was introduced to Hope for Youth was that Hope for Youth and organizations like yours showed me that the work you're doing, you're leading the charge, but there's ways that everyone can help, right? I often think, oh, well, what could I do? I'm just one person, which is the wrong way to think. You mentioned the word together, and that's really what it's all about. How can folks be involved with Hope for Youth and help your cause? In
a variety of ways. We have volunteers. Mm-hmm. We have volunteers that can come and help give out supplies, organize some of the in-kind donations we get, spend time with the children after they've been vetted, of course. We have opportunities for giving. I mentioned all the programs we have. All of those programs are connected to contracts or grants, but the contracts and grants just give us just enough money, just enough to be able to pay our staff, of course, and provide, minimal services to our families. If a young person is going to, let's say, college and needs a laptop, where does that money come from?
Right.
I don't have it. So we depend on those generous people or generous folks out there that wouldn't mind giving $5 or $10. And $5 and $10, if everyone gives $5 or $10, it adds up, and we can buy that young man a laptop. I have 3 children of my own. Mm-hmm. 2 of them have gone to college. I've gone to, you go to the store and you buy everything that they need. These children don't have that. They're not in situations where their families can afford that. And our children do go to college. They do, and they have a successful time there. So, people that are volunteers can give of themselves in regards to generous donations. Just someone that, let's say, if you have something new or something gently used, coats, school items. I think we're doing a school supply, a little venture now to see if we can get some school supplies in. School's starting. We're having a school giveaway on August 29th and 30th at our office for our caseworkers to pick up for their children. But we need people to give, if they can, of course. Every little bit helps. And just calling and asking, what can I do, is always helpful.
Excellent. And where can folks find you? Please give us your contact information.
Okay. We are at Hope for Youth. Let me think of the phone number is 631-691-5100 is our main office in Amityville. There we have our development department that really, works and does all these phone calls and accepts all these phone calls. And we have hfyny.org is our website. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
We'll look for you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Irma, and sharing the information about everything that Hope for Youth is doing. Again, kudos to you and your team for doing an amazing job and really doing God's work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We're available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio as a podcast, and iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC.